They didn't want to have like some sort of part-time player on their team. They want to have some sort of like camaraderie and all that. And they just completely turned around. I mean, like what? It's been like 2 months, 3 months. Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, December 21st edition of the TV on Basketball Podcast with your host, TV. Hope you're having a fantastic day and thank you for clicking on to watch or listen to today's episode. Before we start, I do have to plug my other platforms. Remember to follow at TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, including TikTok for updates on the podcast and for other great content. If you're on YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. And for all my podcast listeners, remember to subscribe, leave a review if you're on Apple. And as for my Spotify, Anchor, and Podbean listeners, just continue to show your support in any way possible. That would be highly appreciated. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a bunch of the COVID protocols that's been going on in the NBA as of late. Going to be talking about the Anthony Davis injury, and also we're going to be ending the show with kind of like the presents, like just like last year, I'm giving presents to those who have been really nice in the NBA this year and giving coal to those who have been bad. I did this segment, I think, last year or 2 years ago. I'm going to bring it back here. And basically just going to talk about them and why they deserve what they deserve. But yeah, it's going to be a really good episode. Again, happy holidays to everyone listening to this around the holiday season. I know there's been a lot of tough stuff going on in the world, especially if you're in Canada, US. I think literally everywhere it's been kind of rough. But hopefully we can enjoy the holidays, watch some good NBA basketball, and, hopefully everyone can stay safe. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into the episode. And of course, we got to start this episode with the health and safety protocols that has been ravaging the NBA over the last week or two for sure. Over 30 players have been affected by the health and safety protocols so far, and there have been multiple games canceled. A few of the Raptors games have been canceled, including the games against the Orlando Magic and also the Chicago Bulls from last week. The Chicago Bulls definitely had to miss some games as well. And in terms of games from tonight, if you guys are watching this, for tonight's games, which is on, I think this is December 21st today, the Washington-Brooklyn game is postponed because, the Brooklyn Nets just do not have enough players. And the thing is, like, there has been 6 so far. And I think 6 just 6 in total of the cancellations so far. But there are definitely more to be had in the future. Last year there was 31 games. And it was easier, I think, that year because there were no people in arenas to try and, work it out. Like, it's easy to kind of find venues after that. But this year it's different. Concerts are still going on. You still got fans attending games, trying to figure out refunds and all that. It's hard, especially now with the Omicron variant coming over to North America, it being super transmissible, and a lot of people not even having the booster shot just yet. We're going to see those numbers go up and possibly even exceed last year. And this is not just affecting the NBA. This is affecting sports around the world. You got the Premier League in England canceling a couple of their games. The NHL has completely shut down its facilities until after Christmas because obviously they have quite a number of teams in Canada as well, which makes it hard, especially for cross-border travel. And even arenas around the league have been affected by this. One in particular, obviously here in Toronto, the Scotiabank Arena has held its capacity from 100% down to 50%, which means it's majority just season ticket holders, which is highly unfortunate because I was even supposed to go to a game next month versus the Pelicans, but that looks like it may not happen unless they open up some seats by then. But for sure, we still don't know. And the thing is, with this, the NBA has tried to have these new rules implemented so that teams can meet that 8-player exception. I mean, at least for them to play an NBA game. And they added stuff like the new replacement player rule, which Sean's reported on a couple of days ago. A lot of teams are using the hardship exemption to sign 10-day players just so they have enough guys on the roster. So they really are trying all they can to meet this minimum 8-player threshold. But in terms of what I think and kind of where I see this is going, it's not going to slow down yet. I think it's going to get worse before it does get better. I think it will get better. I don't think it's going to last as long as other potential lockdowns, or if there's going to be a lockdown, it's going to be pretty short. But But at the end of the day, should the NBA? The question is here is like, should the NBA just shut down its operations for now, because it is spreading pretty quickly and it's affecting the viewing experience of people watching at home, affecting the teams for sure a lot, and it's just like risking more and more cases coming to the NBA. And I believe they should. I mean, that feels like the moral thing to do. You see the NHL doing it already, especially because the NBA has a team in Toronto that's already like not helping them out. And it really does feel like it's better that way, just so we can help slow the spread, help get more people get the booster shot and all that. That feels like the right thing to do. But to be honest, and I think Michelle Roberts said this in an interview or something, or she spoke to one of the NBA reporters, she doesn't see it happening, and honestly, we all should not see this happening, that the NBA is going to shut this down. There's just no way. There's just no way, because money talks and morals usually just get pushed aside because of that, and the NBA season is probably just going to go on. Even when we're watching glorified G League games. I mean, like, I think there was a game a couple of days ago with the Orlando Magic taking on the Pelicans, I think, or it was like something along those lines. And it was basically just two G League teams playing. That's what it really felt like at times. I mean, of course, you see some guys you like recognize and all that, but you're sometimes just watching a bunch of guys that you never even heard from before, some two-way guys and stuff like that. And look, I'm happy they're getting the opportunity. I'm happy they are, but it just doesn't, like, it hurts the viewing experience. It definitely does. And people who paid tickets for that, like hoping to see a Steph Curry, hoping to see a Trae Young, a Giannis, and seeing these other guys, I mean, it's highly, highly unfortunate. But the NBA is still powering on. And another point to put here before we do move on from these COVID protocols, I do not want to stay too long on this, is that the NBA is in its most kind of hype phase before the playoffs. And what I mean by that is, like, Christmas Day, they always make a big deal about having these 5 games around there, having it back-to-back-to-back, just so, and then it's like this like huge event in the NBA. They're not shutting down. They're not going to shut down, because that's one of the biggest events of the year. That is about 4 days away. Yeah, we are 4 days away from Christmas. It's just not going to happen. It really isn't. And you got like kind of some very good marquee matchups here. Hopefully seeing teams like the Lakers versus the Suns and all that. Some good games there, but it just, like, there's just no way the NBA is going to cancel right before that big event. But also keep in mind, you know, players such as Trae Young, who are still in health and safety protocols, along with Giannis, may not be available for Christmas, so that could maybe also be a determining factor for other things. I don't agree with this. I still don't agree with this personally. I do think that having like even like a mini lockdown like the NHL is doing right now, which is I think 4 or 5 days, which is like closing all operations, could help out the league, but with the amount of money they lost last year due to revenue and fact that they actually like sold a bunch of like tickets to games and stuff like that this year, it just feels like there's no way they're gonna do it. Obviously, I think it should be like handled differently, but as long as they're doing it here, as long as these guys just keep getting vaccinated, hopefully getting the booster shot, they're doing these new like daily testing as well, which they did last year. It's definitely gonna be tough. It's definitely gonna be tough to maintain, and hopefully we could still like prevent the spread as much as possible. Luckily for some teams, they're getting some guys back, like the Bulls. They just got back Demar Derozan and some other players, so they're able to play again. But at the end of the day, this thing is still very alive, very active. I encourage people to all get their like booster shots if they haven't already, or try to get them. I know here in Toronto, people have been like clamoring for them, and hopefully a lot more people can get it soon. But at the end of the day, it's still here. You still got to be cautious. And if they're gonna continue on, they hopefully do it in the most safe way possible. Now the next topic we're gonna go to, does it feel safe? Which is really weird, and I think this is a great transition to that, because I'm talking about safety here. But the Brooklyn Nets, I still don't agree with this. But Kyrie Irving, yes, we're gonna be talking about Kyrie Irving right now. And it was announced, I think it was early on in the weekend, like last weekend, that Kyrie Irving was going to be returning to the Brooklyn Nets and only playing in away games. Now, away games is very selective, because of course he can't play in home games because of the New York City vaccine mandates and whatever. But along with that, he can't play against the New York Knicks at any point, and he can't play against the Toronto Raptors because he can't cross the border without being vaccinated. So that means Kyrie Irving is going to play about, like, what, maximum 18, 19 games. So he's coming back. Of course, that whole thing at the beginning of the year saying, "Oh, he's trying to be a voice for the voiceless." He doesn't agree with the fact that unvaccinated players cannot participate in some aspects of the game and not be able to work and all that. His view, whatever he wants to think. But at the same time, the Nets were very adamant early on in the season that they were going to set a standard. They didn't want to have some sort of part-time player on their team. They wanted to have some sort of camaraderie and all that. And they just completely turned around. I mean, it's been 2 months, 3 months ever since that whole Kyrie Irving fiasco, and they're going back on it really quickly. I mean, it's not a good look. For me, it's not a good look. They have exemptions now. I know that they're playing a bunch of G League guys already. They're bringing in a bunch of just whoever they can to try and at least fit the 8-person limit. And now they have some games canceled. But at the end of the day, you turn to Kyrie, you try bringing him back, and look right away he got put into health and safety protocols, which means he needs 5 straight days of negative tests in order for him to even return to the court. It's desperate for sure, and I understand this desperation move here. What's the regular season? I know KD's in health and safety protocols. Same thing with James Harden. They'll be back soon, but Kyrie Irving, man. I mean, after all that's been through, and you trying to stay with your morals and all that, and you just completely turn around because you're missing some players, and you're only gonna have Kyrie there for road games. Remember that. And road games is very selective because again, they still have to play a couple games in Toronto. They still have to play a couple games in NYC. It's just a very messy space, and especially in a time where you're trying to get less people infected, you're trying to limit the spread of COVID, and you bring in someone who's unvaccinated. It just feels very contradictory to me, and I just do not agree with the way that they're going about this. And look, I'm not saying that Kyrie Irving is not going to help this team. And 19 games of Kyrie is better than no Kyrie, right? But just the reasoning behind it just doesn't sit right with me. It just doesn't. But he's still Kyrie. If we look at it from a basketball perspective, he will come into those 19 or so games. He'll put up good numbers. He'll still be Kyrie. And at times he'll be the best player on the court because that's just Kyrie Irving. But I don't know. There's just so many weird things that go along with this. I mean, say if the Brooklyn Nets face the Knicks or the Raptors in the playoff series, there's no Kyrie for that entire series. And then are they going to do some things where they drop to the 5th seed so they have at least Kyrie for 4 games in some scenarios instead of 3 games? Imagine if they face the Milwaukee Bucks in a 7-game series in the conference finals. Dude, the Nets will look at them I think we would rather be the 2 seed just so we can have Kyrie for that extra game. I mean, the semantics are super weird about this. This feels just ridiculous just talking about it. I don't think they should have done this. I mean, they felt like they were very adamant about it before the season, and now when push comes to shove, they're bringing him back, and again, he is at a big risk because he is unvaccinated. If he got vaccinated, great for the team, great for him. He's back on the court. But again, bringing someone in, especially in a time where it's spreading like crazy right now across the NBA, especially with the health and safety protocols, and you bring in someone who's unvaccinated and he's already in health and safety protocols, it's rough. It's rough being, of course, first Kyrie Irving because he has to be out for 5 days, but it's just not a good look. It just really isn't a good look, and it's just gonna be intriguing to see what the Brooklyn Nets do because right now they're sitting number 1 in the East, 2 games ahead of the Chicago Bulls. Right now, let's see what they're gonna have to do with this. But I personally am just not a fan of what they're trying to do here. Moving on to the next topic we're gonna talk about, moving away from the COVID stuff because it's kind of depressing right now. I know it's hard for a lot of people, hard for myself as well, but hopefully we can power through this and. This one doesn't seem as severe, which is great, and hopefully this could actually lead to herd immunity or something in the future. But moving away from COVID, let's talk about another injury. I mean, an injury that's not related to COVID, and of course it has to do with Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is going to be out for the next 4 weeks at the very least due to an MCL sprain, which was caused in the game over the weekend versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, Lakers versus Timberwolves. LeBron was handling the ball off the court. I think he was getting guarded by Jalen McDaniels or something. It's Jalen or Jaden, one of the brothers, but he pushes McDaniels off of him. McDaniels stumbles and he lands on Anthony Davis's left leg. That kept him out for the rest of the game, and after an MRI, it's an MCL sprain, and he's going to be out for basically a month. AD said after the game that he feared that it was going to be a bigger injury because he heard some sort of pop, but luckily it isn't too major. In terms of this injury, though, from my perspective, I mean, I hope he gets better soon. Firstly, best regards go to him. Hopefully, he gets better soon. But let's be honest, this is ground day for Anthony Davis. Every single year, no matter what team he's on, whether it's the Pelicans or the Lakers, there's always going to be some nagging injuries with Anthony Davis. If you I look at the picks every day because I do the NBA daily picks contest between myself and Jalen from the Hoop Talk podcast. So I'm always looking at injuries and stuff. Anthony Davis is never just healthy. That's the thing with Anthony Davis here too. He's just never healthy. It's always a game time decision. Oh, it's a thigh, it's a foot, it's a back, it's everything with Anthony Davis. He's just so unreliable in terms of staying healthy on the court. And look, he's having a good season too. Anthony Davis is not. I mean, he's not having Anthony Davis level season, but he's still having a good season, averaging 24 points a game, 23 points a game, and basically 10 rebounds on 52% from the field. Obviously, the 18% from the 3-point line is pretty bad, and he's also shooting pretty bad from not up to his hands from the free throw line at 73%. But at the end of the day, this is just something. This is just something that Anthony Davis goes through every single season. And if you look at his tenure with the Lakers, this is his third season. Is this third or this is third season. Yeah, this is third season. First season, wins an NBA championship. Looks like a top 3 player, and then we're starting to look in the future, saying this is going to be Anthony Davis's team soon. And LeBron's getting older. LeBron wants to hand the torch off to Anthony Davis for him to lead the Lakers into a new era. But ever since then, injuries have hurt him. His production has gone lower and lower every single year. I mean, this year's a bit of a bounce back compared to last year, but still lower by his standards. And he just honestly besides his first season, his tenure with the Lakers has been pretty underwhelming. Right now, he's in his late 20s. I think maybe he just turned 30. No, he's 28. He's still in his late 20s, but he should be the number 1 guy in LA right now. He should be. He has the tools. He is one of the best defensive players in the league. A very good offensive player. This guy was just named to the NBA 75 list. One of the 75 greatest players of all time. Bumping up players like a Dwight Howard, like a Klay Thompson. A lot of people who had some bounce back. I mean, even Vince Carter, he made it in over him. And now at the time I was fine. I mean, he is one of the best centers of this center/slash power forwards of this generation. He's super skilled on the offensive end, one of the better defenders. It makes sense. But the injuries are hurting him. Physically, of course, right now, and just hurting his legacy right now and what the Lakers are trying to do in the future. Because right now, the Lakers are relying on a 37-year-old LeBron. And look, he's still playing fantastic. He's still playing at a very, very high level. But it shouldn't have to be this way. Anthony Davis should have taken that pedestal by now. And what this really makes me think back to is, remember a couple years ago when he signed that 5-year extension, a lot of people thought that throughout the rest of his career, because of how good he was as a player, he was going to pull the KD, the LeBron James move of doing the 1+1, the 1 year plus the player option, and keep trying to renegotiate that every year and try to get the most money he can that way. And plus, it just gives him freedom to maybe choose a team down the line. But he chose to sign that 5-year Supermax extension, or that max extension or whatever. And, fair enough. I mean, he wants stability. But he talked about afterwards, because I think he was asked about Fred VanVleet and how he kind of bet on himself in order to get that big contract. And look, Anthony Davis, I think afterwards said, look, I appreciate him for that. But Anthony Davis basically talking in that interview how his body is kind of fragile. And he just wants to stay cautious and wants to provide him and his family the best chance of gaining wealth or generational wealth. And the thing was, at the time, like I said, he had the ability, or at least the playing ability, to demand the 1+1s. But even he couldn't trust himself, which is very worrisome, especially if you're the Lakers. And if he really can't bet himself and bet on his body, and seeing how he's been kind of deteriorating over the past few years or so, there have been reports. This could not end well. This may not end well for Anthony Davis there in LA. If this continues to go on, and he isn't that number 1 guy that they were hoping that they traded, kind of the boatload to the New Orleans Pelicans, then I don't think the Lakers are going to bet on him long term. Of course, I think they're going to stick with him right now. But imagine he stays 31, multiple injuries. He missed another 20 to 25 games again in that season. What is gonna why would the Lakers stay idle? The Lakers are looking for constant success. Of course, they had some rough patches there, especially in the last 20 years. But they're always looking for success, and they're hoping that Anthony Davis is going to lead them to that new era. And if he can't bet on himself, it's going to be hard to see the Lakers bet on him long term as well. So be on the lookout for that. I don't think anything's going to change this season or even maybe next season. But Anthony Davis, I mean, hope he gets better, but he needs to stay healthy. He needs to get out there on the floor in order for him to be at his best, because we know how good he is. I even was tempted to put him in my top 3 players in the league the year they won a championship. But he's slowly dropping down. I still have hope in him. But he's, especially with the other players in the league, taking their game up to the next level, seeing a Jokic, seeing an Embiid, how he's playing. For me, at their best, Anthony Davis is, right there with them. But at the moment, Embiid and Jokic are kind of significantly above him right now. Just being able to stay on the court and actually, lead their team to actually go places. Anthony Davis has not done that consistently. Hopefully he can come back soon. But there's something to really look out for in Anthony Davis, because honestly, I wish it could have been better for him. Let's see. Hopefully he gets back soon, but he really needs to take control of that team sooner rather than later. Yeah, that's about the Anthony Davis injury. Before we move on to my Christmas gifts segment of the show, we're going to be talking about some key moments from the week. We're going to basically just breeze through these because it's been just a crazy week of basketball. First, let's talk about the game winners, because, man, game winners have been just taking over the league right now. We're going to talk about a couple of them here. Firstly, Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves versus the Dallas Mavericks. I think the Lakers were down by 1, or they were tied in this game. LeBron James misses a 3. Let's take it back to the regulation first, because LeBron misses a 3 to tie the game. Kleber and Porzingis both have their hands on it. They both are trying to grab it from each other. The ball turns loose. Wayne Ellington gets the rebound, pump fakes. A guy flies right by him and splashes the 3 to send the game to overtime. Funnily enough, for Wayne Ellington, he missed 2 or 3 shots before that, which were pretty makeable too, but he redeemed himself to bring the game to overtime. They go into overtime. It's a pretty close game. Maxi Kleber banks a 3 as well to tie the game. They go to the final possession. Westbrook hits a 3-2 to kind of keep the Lakers in striking distance. They have a chance to win. LeBron passes it to Westbrook. Westbrook is wide open. He smartly doesn't take the 3. Thank you, Russell Westbrook, for not taking the 3 there. Drives into the paint, kicks it out. Austin Reeves, the undrafted rookie this year, who's been getting minutes for the Lakers, hits the 3 and wins the game. Crazy, crazy performance. I highly suggest you see the highlights of that, because that was actually really, really fun to watch. But, man, that was a crazy, crazy game winner. And that wasn't even the craziest one of the night, because Devontae Graham versus OKC. Crazy, crazy. I think that's the longest buzzer-beating game winner in NBA history, too, which is absolutely crazy. Because Devontae Graham, firstly, before that, the Thunder were up by 1. I think they were up by 1 or 2. They were up for sure, because SGA hit some crazy step back 3 when the Pelicans were trying to intentionally foul, but SGA still hit it. So I think the Thunder had some sort of lead going into that final possession. I think it was 1 point something seconds left. You get to Devontae Graham, and he hoists it from basically the other 3-point line on the other side of the court, and he banks it in. That was a crazy, crazy game winner. Absolutely heartbreaking for OKC, who again, SGA hit that clutch shot before that, which is also pretty crazy. But, man, Devontae Graham freaking killed it in that final play, and they were able to get the win. I mean, again, if I know a lot of you guys have seen that game winner. It's just absolutely insane. Then the third game winner this week, SGA was like, man, yeah, y'all did me dirty on the last one. I hit some crazy shot and we lost to a half-court buzzer beater. This time I'm not even going to give him a chance, because against the LA Clippers, I think they were definitely down by a couple points. Had a chance to win it. SGA step back 3. I don't know what the heck Batum was doing, because you cannot give up a 3 in that situation or else they're going to win. Batum goes flying into the paint, doesn't even try to recover, and SGA hits the game-winning 3 to redeem the Thunder after losing to the Pelicans earlier in that week. Absolutely crazy scenes, just crazy plays. And I think that was all in a span of 3 or 4 days. And then the Devontae Graham and Austin Reeves one happened the same day, which crazy. That's something to definitely watch out for. We'll get the highlights for those. Those were insane. Other key performances this week: Anthony Edwards, before he went on into health and safety protocols, had a ridiculous game before he went out. 38 points against the Denver Nuggets, 14 for 21 shooting. And a season high for any player in this league, 10 out of 14 threes. Crazy stuff from Anthony Edwards, and I think they went on to dominate the Nuggets in that game. Yes, they did. The Timberwolves have picked it up recently. Shout out to them. They definitely are missing Anthony Edwards, but man, that was a crazy performance by him, especially in that game. Another crazy game that happened, Gordon Hayward against, this is still, I think, when they were missing LaMelo Ball and all that, but man, they beat the Spurs, I think, last week, and Gordon Hayward put up some like crazy performance, scoring 41 points, 15 for 19 shooting, 5 for 6 from 3. This guy just couldn't miss, and he only played under 30 minutes. Like, that's just a crazy stat line. Gordon Hayward is good for like a couple of these a year. We have to remember that he's still a pretty good basketball player, and he did so against the Spurs that night. Crazy game. Over the weekend, DeMar DeRozan comes back from health and safety protocols, goes up against LeBronto. I mean, sad throwback to the time when he was with the Raptors. He goes up against LeBron James, a depleted Lakers team. They were down pretty big in the fourth, but DeRozan took over as he's done all year long, averaging 8 points a game in the fourth, which is, I think, leading the league. But this game, he absolutely took over. 19 points in the fourth quarter, constantly getting to his spot, hitting that mid-range jumper. As Raptor fans know, his signature play. He was just fantastic. And, you know, shout out to him. We're going to talk about him more later into this Christmas gift section, but he's just fantastic. He's just absolutely fantastic, and I'm glad he's getting the recognition he deserves. And then last but not least, we, of course, have to mention this in here. Steph Curry breaks the three-point record, which was set by Ray Allen, where he finished his career with 2,973 threes. And Steph Curry beat that against the New York Knicks on last week. I think it was on a Tuesday, which I posted last week's episode. Crazy scenes. They stopped the entire game. It was definitely a huge milestone, and I'm glad that Steph was able to break it. It was meant to happen. He gave the ball to Dell, and just a crazy. All you got to say about Steph is like, look, he's a great shooter of all time. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He even said before that, I don't want to call myself that until I have the record. Now he has the record. He's going to get all over the place as Steph does. And now he's trying to make merch out of it and everything. It's really cool. He got the jersey saying the 2974. Got a picture with Ray Allen and Reggie Miller, which is absolutely fantastic. That was an awesome night in MSG. So yeah, those are the key moments from the NBA week this week. Let me know any more that you have down below. And we're going to end off today's episode with a segment called Christmas Gifts. Who's been naughty, who's been nice, all that good stuff. We have four players and one team we're going to talk about here. And we're going to talk about whether this team deserves coal or whether this team whether this team / player deserves presents. I'm going to go through each of them, and hopefully we can get into a Christmas spirit. I'm basically standing here and just basically rewarding kind of the good players in the league, and kind of those who kind of doing some bad things, whether it's a team or a player. Before I continue waffling on, let's get right into the presents. Let's be nice. Let's talk about Kevin Durant. I want to talk about Kevin Durant because he deserves all the praise in the world right now. This guy, over the past week, without James Harden, without LaMarcus Aldridge, and basically playing with a bunch of two-way players / Patty Mills, Nick Claxton, and Blake Griffin, Kevin Durant, before he entered his health and safety protocols, was on an absolute tear. This guy was playing at an absolute high level. He played a couple of games without James Harden and stuff like that, but he was still playing just so good. He started off the week with a 51-point game, 51-7-9. He was just absolutely fantastic in that game, and there was still no James Harden. There was no James Harden playing. There was no Paul Millsap there, and he was still able to put up that big of a stat line and win. Then he goes on to the Toronto Raptors. 30-point triple-double, trusted his guys, and he was able to just take over that overtime period. And then against the Philadelphia 76ers, where they got a lot of their guys back from health and safety protocols and injuries. Joel Embiid was still there. No problem. Kevin Durant, 34 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. 3 masterful performances, and he's honestly been doing this all season long. He has to be, honestly for me, him and Steph are 1 and 2 in terms of the MVP race. Put them in whatever order you want. I have Steph currently, but you can honestly put KD there. I would not complain. He's just so good, and I have to keep reminding people this, that he had an Achilles surgery a couple years ago. And when you watch him now, you don't even think about it. You don't think about that, and you just see him playing at the highest level, him looking like the best player in the league. You just completely forget he had that injury, and he's playing at such a high level. 31.1 PER as well, one of the highest in the league history. What else can you say, man? Kevin Durant is a professional scorer, one of the best basketball player in the world right now. Sucks that he is going to be out a bit because of injury, but he's just so good, man. I want people to appreciate him while we have him. I know he's done some bad decisions in the past. Not even bad decisions. He's been hated in the past for the decisions he made. But you can't deny that he has been such a good player, and he honestly deserves all the praise he's getting right now because it's freaking Kevin Durant. The comeback story is great. He's just a phenomenal player. He gets presents from me. Let's get a team out the way. The team that I'm going to give Cole to, the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings, right now they're sitting 11th and the 10th in the West, 13-18 record. They're just not a good organization. They need to have a full sort of rebuild sort of thing here going on there, because what they're doing right now is just not working. Like I said last week's episode, we have I think De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Haliburton should be the guys who stay with the team. Everyone else, it's kind of fair play. Harrison Barnes, I think he can help with a contender. Buddy Hield, same thing with him. Rashawn Holmes. Those three guys I think could be really comparable pieces on championship/playoff contenders who need those certain positions. Then you got people like Terrence Davis who can probably help on another team. Davion Mitchell, he's kind of they have a good at the backcourt position. Then other players is there. I mean, they should really just rebuild, start off fresh. Whether they keep Fox or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I would like to keep him and Haliburton around. The Kings is 16 years, man. 16 years, just an incompetent organization. They had a bad ownership before that, and then when they switched to Vivek Ranadive, you thought things would change. Then one of his first comments was trying to do 4-on-5 basketball, and then you're like, oh my gosh, you got another guy in our heads that's gonna freaking ruin the Kings. And honestly, the Kings have just not gotten much better. They've had some stars come in and out, with DeMarcus Cousins being there, Tyreek Evans early on in his career. Obviously, you have De'Aaron Fox right now, who signed a big-time extension with them. But they haven't gone anywhere. Sure, at best this season, they can make a 10th or 9th seed. But they don't... even watching them, they just don't look inspiring. They just don't. Obviously, they had some issues with Marvin Bagley last year as well. We don't know what's going to happen with him if he can finish out the season. But they need to really do a whole rebuild. They don't know what to do with this basketball team. This basketball team is not very good. And they can continue to stay mediocre as long as they kind of stick with this flow. They really need to shake things up. They did so with Luke Walton. They're using Alvin Gentry right now, who he has COVID right now, so hopefully he's doing all right. A lot of things to point out bad about this organization. I'm sorry to the limited Kings fans, or if there's any of the Kings fans actually listen to this podcast, but y'all need a change. Y'all need a change, and there's no point of waiting around for it. They know this team is not good. They really need to make some changes quickly. Whether it's this season, whether it's this offseason, a big change needs to be made. Let's get back into holiday spirit. Let's talk about another guy I would give a present to, and that is Nicola Yokic. Because right now, the Nuggets are over 500. And to be completely honest with you, they should not be over 500. Because with the amount of injuries that they had to their roster, you got no Michael Porter Jr., basically. You got no PJ Dozier, no Jamal Murray. You're using players like Bones Highland, who's actually played a significant role for this team. Composo's getting a lot more minutes. Zeke Naji. And Nikola Yokic. Nikola Yokic is what is keeping this team together, and it always keeps them competitive no matter what. We thought last year his NBA MVP season was pretty historical. This he was putting up massive numbers. He's doing he improved a lot even on the defensive end. Last year he averaged 26.4, 10 rebounds a game, basically 8 assists, with 1.3 steals, almost a block a game. He was just phenomenal, and especially shooting 38% from 39% from 3 and 56% at the line. Cool, right? Well, this season, Jokic is even playing better, which is crazy to think about, averaging 26 points a game, 7.5 assists, 13.5 rebounds, almost 60% from the field, 38% from the three-point line, 75% from the free throw line, and he has the highest PER in NBA history. Yeah. Nicola Yokic is keeping this Nuggets team afloat. If you didn't think that he was the best center in the league last year, he is definitely proving it once again this year. Sadly, his team doesn't have the record, so he's not really in the MVP race, even though I think he should be right there with the KDs and the Steph Currys. He is just that good of a player at 26 years of age. This guy is just phenomenal to watch. Just absolutely phenomenal. Watch any Nuggets game and just see this guy just zip passes left, right, and center, going into the post, defending now. Like, this guy is actually a decent defender. Probably his best year defensively as well. And half his team is injured. Like his two of the big three is injured there on the Nuggets. And trust me, if those guys were healthy, with the way Nicola Yokic is playing right now, they would be a finals contender, a championship contender. But he has to deal with a lot of injuries. He has a lot of moving pieces in and out of his in and out of the lineup. But Nicola Yokic is still making it work. And I want people to realize that he is a legit player. I want people to realize that he is a borderline top 5 player. Probably in the top 5 now. I think I can make a good argument for that. He's just fantastic. I don't want to hear anything otherwise. He is the best player, the best center in the league. He's just amazing. He's just absolutely amazing. The Joker continues to do his thing. No matter what pieces he has on the floor, he just makes it work. He deserves all the praise in the world. Honestly, if I had to give him a gift, it's just give him some more help, man. Just give Jokic some more help because he deserves it. He's having an MVP type season. Hopefully, he can continue it on. Because he's such a fun player to watch. Next person I'm going to give Cole to, Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons. This whole saga with him wanting to get traded from the 76ers is almost reaching the 6-month mark. It's almost been 6 months. I mean, after that second round exit, a lot of players, people like myself, a lot of NBA fans, a lot of experts talked about how, look, after you dissing Ben after the game, after what he did in the thing, he's probably going to be number 1 in Philadelphia. He is not going to come. He should not be back with the team. Daryl Morey said, okay, I'm waiting for a big-time offer. He doesn't get that. He's waiting. A few weeks ago, they said that there were potential news that that there is a potential top 25 player coming back to the 76ers in return for Ben Simmons. But there's not much chatter besides that. I mean, over the past few weeks, I don't think there's anything new about the Ben Simmons situation. But the fact that this has been going on for months upon months upon months, and he's still there, still on the team. Obviously, it's blame Ben. There's some blame to put on Ben because he doesn't even want to report for team activities. But this is also on Morey. And Morey, you deserve Cole too because you need to have even though if you're not getting that top 25, that superstar back for Ben Simmons, you really don't know his value because people know that you're desperate. People know that Ben Simmons is not going to play for you guys. So they're going to keep lowballing you, and there's no reason why you shouldn't take the best offer right now. He should have been gone in August. He should have been gone in July. But he's still here. And because Daryl Morey is trying to get the best package out of him, and, to some extent, that's fine. But you do not do that, especially when you have championship aspirations. You're looking for that championship piece, you're not going to get it out of Ben Simmons. You're not going to do it. You're not going to get it out of Ben Simmons. So you got to lower down your expectations. Get that CJ McCollum trade going. Start those talks back up. Potentially get into other teams. Maybe you can get one of their good guards. You cannot just settle with what you have right now. Instead that you're just waiting for a top 25 player in exchange for Ben Simmons, because that's just not going to happen. That isn't going to happen. I know there have been reports and stuff like that, but I would be in shock if that happens. Especially because the 76ers want, I think still value Ben Simmons that highly. Morey, just lower down your expectations, man. Ben Simmons, although he is a great player, an all-defensive player, a potential all-NBA player, with the situation you are right now, you are not getting the return that you're hoping for. And I think he just has to realize that. Last but not least, let's end it on a good note. Let's give this guy one present. Let's talk about Demar Derozan. And I talked about him early on in the podcast in the weekly highlights as he scored 38 points against the Lakers, 19 in the fourth. as a Raptor fan, I had to rock the Demar Derozan jersey. I just had to. The Demar Derozan shirt. Because I'm just glad he's just getting the recognition he deserves. I really do. Because in the final few years with the Raptors, swept by the Cavs twice, 2 years in a row. Obviously, took the Cavs to 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2016. But DeMar DeRozan has always been good. He has always been a good player. One of the top shooting guards in the league. Small forwards. I think now he's even in the power forward conversation because that's where he's playing. But him right now, he's averaging 26 points a game. He's top 5 in the league right now in scoring. But in that 2016-2017 season, he averaged 27 points a game. He had multiple 20-point, he's averaged like 20 points a game or more in like the last like 7 years. So we know that he could score. But what's different about him is, one, they're winning, the Chicago Bulls, and he was their marquee signing. And he's just taking over fourth quarter games. Like I mentioned earlier, 8 points a game in the fourth quarter. I think that's like leading the league so far this season. He's getting everything he wants. He's a better playmaker nowadays. He's still a solid defender. And he just knows how to play within himself. That's a good thing about DeMar DeRozan. If he knows he can shoot the three, he'll shoot the three. But his bread and butter is getting to the free throw line, where he's basically 90% at that. He's 50% from the field right now, averaging 26 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He is in conversations for borderline All-NBA first team, definitely an All-NBA player, and possibly an NBA All-Star. That's how good DeMar DeRozan has been playing. And as someone who is like, he's my favorite player of all time, seeing him do this, seeing him basically like him and Levine basically being that dynamic duo and actually providing wins, makes me happy, makes me smile, if you get that reference. But he deserves like a lot of praise that he's getting right now, because he was part of that whole LeBronto team and stuff like that. People kind of undervalued him a lot. But now he's on the Bulls. They're the second seed in the East right now, 2 games behind the Brooklyn Nets. He's getting the recognition. He's getting recognition, and people understand that this guy is just an absolute killer. Ever since the second year of the season, he has learned how to score in this league. He knows exactly where he needs to be. Like I said, he just knows himself as a player, and he maximizes that to his like fullest potential. And I just realized this is like his big best free throw shooting as well. So good for him. But glad to see him doing well. If the Raptors, I don't expect the Raptors to go far this year, but if the Bulls continue to go far with DeMar DeRozan playing the way he's playing right now, arguably playing the best basketball of his career, I would not be attest to that as well. Just happy to see him play, happy to see him do well, and now that he's out of health and safety protocols and he looks like he hasn't missed a step, happy to see him playing at a very high level. Hopefully the Bulls can make some noise, because DeMar DeRozan, and hopefully he needs to play well, because DeMar DeRozan deserves a lot of love. But yeah, those are my Christmas gifts I'm giving this year. Let me know down below if there's anyone else that deserves presents, or just anyone that deserves Cole. There's definitely a lot of other players, but let me know your thoughts down below. But I think this is where we're going to end today's episode. Thank you guys for watching or listening. Remember to show love on all the podcast channels. Like, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and also hit the notification bell. And remember to follow @TVOnBasketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also TikTok for updates on the podcast and for other great content. I'm going to be back next week with another episode. Hopefully we have a guest on. This week there's just a lot of I didn't have enough time to plan to get enough to get guys on the pod, but hopefully we could do that next week. So be on the lookout for that, and just look out for just a lot of more content on these social media pages, especially TikTok, because I've been loving the TikTok scene right now. Just continue to do that, and like I said, and I know I said last week I should be putting up Game 6 of my team versus your team. I should be putting it out today. Maybe it might be out even before you see this video, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, lots of good content coming up, and I can't wait to talk some more NBA basketball. Hopefully this season, it looks like they're not going to stop the season, but hopefully there's not more health and safety protocols going on. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully the Christmas Day games are also good. But yeah, thank you guys for all the support. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Take it easy, guys. This is TV signing out. Peace.